Okay. Hi, guys, and welcome to the That's Where I'm At podcast. Today I have Mireille. Mireille has been obsessed with anything romantic, like books and movies, all of her life. Divorced by choice and remarried, but almost failed. She is now navigating a blended family life with her soulmate. Having gone through a lot in the love department, she's on a mission to help other women ditch the struggle and have their happily ever after. She holds a certificate in relationship coaching from IAP Career College and is a member of the IAPO International Association of Professional Relationship Coaches. In her spare time, Mireille enjoys mountain biking, date nights, and being a mom. So, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk, and I will need your services at some point.
Awesome.
To make sure, because Laura has a pattern. When I look back at my life,
Ah.
I'm like, oh, I have a pattern. There's a
Awareness
pattern.
is key.
And that's
Is
all,
the
that's
first.
it. And so I haven't, I am not ready to get out there yet. So,
Fair enough.
so I'm just still doing some healing. I don't know. It's not that I'm scared. I just haven't had the opportunity and I'm not exactly looking. So all those,
Yeah.
so tell me how you got into the relationship coaching. It sounds like you had some ups and downs and maybe you decided it was time to help others.
I did. And like when I look back at my life, like I've been a romantic for as long as I can remember, like even
Yeah.
as a kid growing up as a little girl. And like I wasn't a romantic in the sense that I dreamed of like my actual wedding day. Like even
Okay.
as a kid, I was really focused on like how I wanted to feel with my partner. Like that
Hmm.
part was really important to me. Really something like deep, intuitive, this knowing with this other person. I guess the whole idea of it like a soulmate, right? So
Wow. Okay.
my whole life has been kind of really like into that, and like you said in the bio right in the
Right.
intro, like reading the books, watching the movies. But it's
Yeah.
funny because I never had kind of like a love life that reflected that like in
Okay.
reality, even though I would daydream about it. Growing up, like I had some relationships, but I wasn't like the girl that was like in the long-term relationships
Oh,
and
okay.
with her high school sweetheart forever or anything like
Right.
that. Like I really struggled. Like I really didn't have kind of like the knowledge and the skills. And fair enough, like most of us don't, I think, like
Right.
unless you have like a really strong role model. And I grew
Yeah.
up like my parents stayed together forever. Like I had good role models, but I don't think it was obvious to me necessarily kind of what the skills were,
Right.
um,
Oh no, for
specifically,
sure.
right?
Yeah. I
So,
had that too. And my parents were married until my mom passed away and,
oh
54
wow,
years or something. And it's like,
yeah,
I have no idea how they did it. You know what I mean? Who knows? Like,
maybe
what
they
was
didn't.
they
Maybe
didn't?
they didn't
Yeah,
consciously
it's
know,
true.
right?
Yeah, it's true. They probably couldn't have told me.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. Yeah. And so then how did you decide that you wanted to help other people, in this, in coaching, helping
Well,
them?
then what happened is as I grew older, eventually I did find, a partner. I got
Yeah.
married, and it was around that time, right, where even though through my dating life, it wasn't like I wasn't kind of finding my vision of what I dreamed of or desired. You see all your friends around you, you reach a certain
Yeah.
age where everyone's getting married. As
Right.
women, you reach a certain
Yes.
age and you're like, everyone's having children now.
Yeah.
So at that time I met my first husband, and I mean he's a great man. I don't have anything,
Yeah.
like I could only say good things about my first husband. And we were married for like 6 years, and together for almost a decade, but it just turned out it wasn't the relationship for me. It wasn't
Yeah.
kind of like I always say, right, my happily ever after.
Right.
And then what happened is that didn't work out. And I did find a partner that kind of met my, well, I shouldn't say kind of, that met my criteria, right?
Yeah.
But I admire you for waiting right now and really working on your healing and everything, because what I tell women all the time is I kind of like jumped in. I really had this
Okay.
idea that I would just find like the perfect person and everything would work out. Like I had this
Right.
like naive rose colored glasses idea that you just, you find the right person. And once you find the right person, then everything is easy.
Right.
Well, that didn't really happen for me. I started going back in these patterns, like you were talking
Yeah.
about, right? Like,
Yeah.
this your patterns. And at one point, we hit rock bottom. And that's when I really said to myself, okay, relationships, love is something I value. Things
Yeah.
aren't working out for me. I'm not like intuitively gifted in this department. Like I need to really learn what to do and what the skills are and everything. And as I started applying and getting support for myself in this area, I managed to turn things around like drastically.
Wow.
Um, and my current husband, like even when we started dating, even though he was my person and everything, even him, he was always saying, let's not ever get married. We'll just, I don't want to get
Wow.
married. We'll just stay together.
Oh,
And when
okay.
I started using the skills, like within a few months, he was like down on one knee, been married
Okay.
ever since. And I'm like, I have to help other women. This is
That's
my passion.
wow.
Um, it doesn't have to be like, relationships aren't easy, they are work,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be as bad or as hard or for as long, right? As some of us
Right.
experience, including myself.
Right. And you're right, we're not taught that, right? We're not taught that anywhere, and I had the same notion, right? You find this person, you seem compatible, you want the same things, and then you get together and everything's glorious.
Yeah.
But it's like you have two flawed people who are trying to come
Mm-hmm.
together to form a life. And oh my gosh, I was so young. And then of course even younger with all the other relationships I had before that, boyfriends and stuff. And it's like I was just trying to fill a need rather than I'm a
Yeah.
whole person, right? So that being that's why I want to work on myself because I want to be like a good I want to know who I am outside of a
Mm-hmm.
relationship because I didn't ever used to do that. My gosh. I mean, it was like I don't know if it was a societal thing or what, but that you get a man or you get a boyfriend or
Yeah.
you get, and then you feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
Disney told us that, right? You need a
Yeah.
man to come save you, that kind of thing. And so what
Yeah.
we didn't know, right?
Yeah, and I know for myself, one of like the pivotal moments in my journey, and I feel like sometimes we do this and it's not even conscious, right? So
Yeah.
we kind of lose ourselves in the relationships. And like when I was married the first time, like I said, like, I
Yeah.
was young or I was at that age where you get married, but
Hmm.
you know, I wanted to have that like white picket fence and
Yeah.
like the perfect wedding photos and
Right.
nowadays the Instagram
Right.
worthy,
Yes.
couple
Yes.
shots and all that,
Everything.
right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And everything's so perfect. And there was a lot of pressure, even just on myself, to even just like maintain that relationship. And in the process, you unintentionally lose yourself. And I remember
Yeah.
after I got divorced, I was driving in my car one day, and I was wearing whatever clothes that I still had after that,
Yeah.
and that I had collected. And I was in the car and I was listening to a song that I used to like an older song that I
Okay.
remember listening to kind of like before my marriage. And I remember thinking, this is who I am, that I hadn't been listening to, and I hadn't been dressing that way anymore. And I
Oh,
remember sitting in the
yeah.
car thinking, like, oh my God, this is who I'm like, this is what I wear. This is the type of music I listen to. Like,
Yeah.
and it just struck me, right? Of the
Oh.
notion of how you can lose yourself.
Isn't it so interesting? So I have a friend that's she was sick and I told her I said I can't, she lives across town. I'm like I can't get to you, but I'll send you groceries because she was so sick she couldn't. And so I had her pick a few things. She has some dietary restrictions and she texted me and she said, "I can't believe I don't even know what dressing to choose because he always chose the dressing for my salad." And so interesting, right? It was just little incremental things that along the way,
Yeah.
of course we all make compromises, but there's a difference when
Mhm.
you don't even recognize yourself.
Yeah.
Right? It was for me
Yeah.
even the silliest thing, but when I moved into my condo, I chose the most whimsical, silly shower curtain. I have a cat. It's a cat scuba diving. I thought it was the cutest thing.
Wow.
And it was significant to me because it was something that I never would have chosen when I was married because he would have said, "Oh no, that seems ridiculous." Of course, now he was a narcissist and he was mean, but
Yeah.
but but even that, it's like even just making little choices, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I felt like such a freedom. I'm like, I get to choose whatever shower curtain I want.
Yeah.
And we see that. And so are you working with women who are coming to you? When do these women come to you? What time of their life are they coming to you?
I have a variety of women.
Okay.
Usually it's like in their 30s, 40s, or 50s.
Okay.
And I work with women right now who are in relationships, they're married. I'm working with women who are dating or even just preparing for the dating stage, right?
Yeah.
So I do have a variety of women. I get a lot
Okay.
of women who tend to be in a should I stay or should I go situation because
Oh,
I've
okay.
made those choices. I've made it in the
Yeah.
first marriage where I had, do I
Yeah.
stay, do I go? I went. And even in my current message, right, when in a marriage, when things were rocking
Yeah.
the relationship, and I was like, no, I want to stay. So I can, I have a perspective on both sides for that,
Okay.
and I
Yeah.
can see it, from the two different perspectives.
Oh, so that's good. So that they come to you and decide what they want to do. And then do you ever work with both of them, with the couple, or
I
just the women?
really focus on the women, I have to
Okay.
say, more
Yeah.
than the couples. I think one of the big misconceptions out there, and I mean, I think couples therapy is great and
Yeah.
everything, but I do think there's a misconception that, if your partner's not willing to do couples therapy, you're doomed. And I
Right.
know in my relationship right now, and I don't say this to shame my husband or anything,
Right.
but he just wasn't game for that. He wasn't
Yeah.
into that. And now I understand why. And now I'm glad we didn't do it because it made me realize that even just like taking on that role in the relationship or taking
Yeah.
even just responsibility for yourself can lead to huge shifts. Like your partner will,
Yeah.
we have mirror neurons in the brain. Your partner, like assuming he's like healthy and everything, he's
Right.
not a narcissist,
Right.
will, will in most cases reciprocate.
Yeah.
And even like sometimes he'll even say like, I love working with feminine, masculine energy. And sometimes I'll say wording really to like bring out the masculine energy in him. And then he'll say exactly the same thing to me. And I'm just laughing in my head because I'm like, that's for the women to say to the man, but I love how you're catching on and you're
Yes.
copying what I'm doing. So that's great. So
Yeah. Well, it is good, and I always say, I've always said this, is that when you treat your husband like gold, he'll act like gold, right? Because if
yes.
you I see that in parenting and all those kinds of things,
Yeah.
like when people are not treating, when you're treating your family members or whoever, or even friends, not nicely, how do you think they're going to act? You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I was very careful about talking badly about my husband and those kinds of things. Now, it's like now I now I
Yes.
have a different story because I have things to tell now. Well, it's
Yeah.
more of a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
So are you teaching women, how to like trust their intuition or really focus on like what kind of changes they need to make? Can you give some examples of that?
Yeah, and just one thing I want to pick up on what you just said that's
Yeah.
really important, I find, is that that whole idea of treating him like gold. And I
Yeah.
find that sometimes one of the biggest challenges because when things aren't going well in our relationship, it can be really
Yes.
hard for us. Like we don't feel he deserves it, and rightfully
Right.
so. There were some moments in my relationship where I felt like I don't feel like I deserve to be nice right now. But once you can kind of
Yes.
overcome that, then you see, oh, okay, like
Yeah.
there's a dynamic between the two of you, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's kind of like a chicken or an egg situation, and sometimes
Yeah.
you just have to kind of like suck it up, unfortunately, go first, and then you're
It's
like,
true.
okay,
Yeah,
that was worth it.
it is. And there's a the I don't even know who the author is. The book is called Love and Respect. I'm almost sure.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I read that book over and over and over, and I really liked it because it's true that they talk about the crazy cycle that you go round and round and round, and one of you, just somebody, suck it up and go
Yeah.
first and break the cycle. And all it's
Hmm.
gonna do is like just say the nice thing, say the thank you, whatever it is, right? Because then
Yeah.
a different cycle starts. And
Hmm.
I thought that was really important. Of course, it can't always be the same person, but whatever.
Yeah,
And
when it
sometimes
it's
it is.
that's so fair. And it's funny because unfortunately I say unfortunately, they've done
Yeah.
the research, and usually it's the women that
Hmm.
tend to bring up relationship issues.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you're not alone.
I
We're
know.
not alone. It feels like if it's always on us.
Yeah.
Women um tend to bring these things up. And actually they've done research and they've seen like on a physiological level,
Yeah.
men get more stressed out in situations of conflict. Like this is like a
Oh, okay.
kind of like a biological thing,
Yeah.
just evolutionary thing
Right.
where, men tend to get like their blood pressure goes up higher and they have a
Yeah.
harder time getting their heart rate down after. They're like designed to like
Right.
go out and hunt and do things like that.
Right.
So for them, there's a survival thing into it, survival
Yes.
thing there. Whereas for women, we have to like need to calm down more because then we have babies to take care of, and we
Yeah.
don't want all that adrenaline and,
Right.
or milk and like really physiological stuff
Yeah.
here at play. And I realize we live in a different society at this point, but there's still some
There are.
nature
I
in
mean,
us,
it's
right?
the way we were made, right?
Yeah,
We were each made differently. And so, yeah, we do have different things. And I
yeah,
feel like women tend to be more nurturing and
yeah,
and maybe that's why we're the first ones to usually say, or we're sorry, or bring up relationship
yeah,
issues or whatever. I think
yeah.
because of that nurturing aspect, that's what I
Yeah.
find anyway.
And men will want to kind of avoid that
Yeah.
conflict too for those physiological reasons. So there's like a whole, yeah, when you understand that, and you asked me a question kind of about,
Yeah.
how I do it, like one of the pillars I like to work on is understanding kind of men and women
Yeah.
from that aspect too, because when you can understand that, you can look at it from a different perspective too.
Right.
And we tend, we get emotional, we're emotional
Right.
beings, which is a wonderful thing, but when we get caught up in there and we don't have kind of the rational logic behind it to kind
Yes.
of, be nurturing, then we can kind of perpetuate that cycle.
Right.
um so there's that aspect I like talking about. I love working on just like basic communication, negotiation
Yes.
skills, because like you
Yes.
referenced earlier too, right? Like when we were talking about being ourselves, like there's certain things in the relationship, like there are things that, you know we still like, and he still does and he still likes, but we kind of blend certain things too. There's some
Yes.
negotiation, some compromise that's going to happen to maintain a happy
Right.
relationship.
Right.
And then the third pillar I like working on is like the confidence, the healing, kind of the
Right.
feminine energy portion of it too.
Yeah.
So
Well, and it's so funny because I was saying something to my best friend, and she goes, "Well, you're gonna have to make some compromises. Marriage is compromise." And I think I'm just in the overcorrecting stage. I'm like, "No one's gonna tell me what to do." I'm like, "Okay, I still need a little more healing."
yeah. Well, there's
No,
I forget the name of the psychologist, but he says like when you pick a partner, you pick a set of problems.
right.
You just pick the ones that you can live with, or you can tolerate, or you can
Oh, yes, for sure.
accept.
Yeah, no one's going to be perfect, obviously, but
Yeah.
is there certain things that, yeah, that he'll put up with and certain things that I'll put up with, and then it's not a deal breaker kind of thing.
Like the
Yeah, I
shower
guess,
curtains, like the
yes.
cat shower curtain.
Well, sorry, it's there.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to live with it. That's what.
Bring that up on the first date. That's your.
Exactly. How do you like cats? No. Do you like animals? I need some. Yeah, you got to go into those situations. I know I have, done so much research now, but getting into a situation where people are in different situations, right? So that you can learn their personality,
Yeah.
whoever you're on a date with, not just, they say not to go on the job interview dinner, all the
Yeah.
time, right? Where you just like ask each other questions. That's fine. I like that. But I could see, let's go into another situation, a stressful situation where you see
Hmm.
how they react and how they act to the servers or things like that. And
Yeah.
that's important to me because I do, appreciate somebody who's respectful.
Yeah.
I do want to do that, that's for sure.
And I
So,
love how you bring that up, because one of the things too, yeah, sometimes as women, we tend to go into these things as job interviews, and even just
yeah,
like in other areas of the relationship when you're struggling. Like one of the things that we forget to do sometimes
yeah,
is the whole idea of having fun, right? And
right,
enjoying our time with the other person. And men really bond with women in terms of having fun and, you know,
right.
kind of that friendship aspect too. So one of the things
Yes,
too is if you can go in there kind of having fun, being fun, smiling, enjoying things,
yes,
that can help you also get out of that mindset of just asking questions and trying to
right,
figure out if it's a right fit too. If you can just go there and enjoy
right.
yourself, because people like to be around people who are fun to be around. It's
Yeah.
just
Well, because I'm very attracted to a really good personality. And someone will
yeah,
be more attractive to me if they have a really good personality and I can laugh with them and have fun. So, yeah, that's definitely something that I do like to sit down and, at this age, I'm in my 50s. I don't have to like find a new daddy for my kids. I don't have to do that,
Yeah.
right? I'm not at that stage. I can move forward with someone who I will enjoy having in my life. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's time to for me to make sure I know what I have to give to the other partner. I want to make sure
Mhm.
I'm healing. I'm pretty healed. Well, of course, we're all healing, but
Yeah.
but I'm so much better than I was. That is for sure.
And there's this misconception, though, I find out there where we feel like we have to be perfectly healed. Like one of the sayings
Yes.
that I don't like, I won't say the word hate, is the whole
Okay.
idea of you have to love yourself before you can love someone else. Like I
Okay.
find there's a bit too much black and white there. Like
Yes.
I know, right? Like I attracted my current husband and, got together when I was not perfectly healed,
Okay.
but we were able to do the healing journey together.
Yeah.
Admittedly, it can be rockier as I've
Yeah.
experienced. It can be harder,
Right.
but just not to discourage women who are in a relationship right now
Okay.
who think back like, uh-oh, like
Yeah.
I still have my childhood traumas. I still have my traumas from my own relationship. Should I
Right.
break up with this person, heal and find someone new? Well, not
Okay.
necessarily. There can be satisfaction and growth
Yeah.
from if you can do that work together, right?
Okay. Well, that's really good to know. That's encouraging.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
You don't have to be
because
perfect. Take that
Well,
pressure off yourself.
and really, we don't ever arrive anywhere, and so there's
No.
not like this destination, right, where we
Yeah.
arrive. Okay, now I'm done healing, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm all done. I'm perfect now. No,
Yeah.
but I think I'm to the point where I'm not crying about my ex
Hmm.
or talking about him all the time. If I was on a date, I wouldn't do that. So
Yeah.
that's how I know I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
So I know it'd be hard. So, you know, one of the things you were talking about was, I want to know about how you maybe, or how some people maybe even abandon themselves. Like when you were thinking about, or when you talk to women about the should I stay or should I go, we have societal norms and expectations from other, maybe family or whatever. What are you finding with that kind of thing when people are trying to reconcile that?
I think there are a few things that happen when a woman is in that situation. One of the things sometimes I notice with women is there is like a lack of clarity sometimes in terms of what it is they desire because we
Okay.
have all those norms and
Yeah.
those standards from, even
Right.
our friends and our family and
Hmm.
just even the movies that I reference,
Right.
right, in the books
Yeah.
and all that. And it's hard to be very clear in terms of what it is that we truly desire, and that can make it very hard to make a decision. There's
Yeah.
also the whole aspect of self-trust. Sometimes we,
Right.
struggle with, well, self-trust or self-worth. you
Yeah.
know is that person really out there? Is it possible for me to find that person?
Yeah.
Am I worthy of this love story that I
Yeah.
desire?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work to do in those areas in terms of really, untangling that and then strengthening the vision and the desire and the self-worth and the self-belief
Yeah.
that, it is possible and you deserve it. And
Right. And that was the key for me when I decided to leave, because it's about my self-worth, right? And my value, and I knew I deserved more than what was happening, especially if he wasn't going to work on it, that kind of
yeah.
thing. So, yeah, that's the biggest thing. When I feel bad for some of my friends who are struggling, and it's like, I'm like, just go work on yourself. That's what you got to work
Mhm.
on. You have to concentrate on your self-worth, because then you won't make decisions based on finding love or finding a person to fill you, even if it's like your current husband you're divorcing or whatever, that they still want that healing from that person. It's not always going to happen, with
Yeah.
you're not always going to get that healing from that person necessarily. So,
No, for sure. And what I love about our stories and how we have these chats together is that we have
yeah,
such two contrasting
yeah,
kind of divorce experiences. And I love
right,
how it shows women that, you can make the decision to leave, obviously, if you're experiencing narcissistic
right.
abuse, but you can also make the decision if things are okay,
Yes,
but that's not what you value. And like,
yeah,
I don't want to seem doom and gloom, but I really
yeah,
started living my life from the perspective of, hey, I have one life in this
right.
shape and
Yes,
form and
yes,
context and space and time, like
yes.
maybe we do, maybe we don't, but we don't really know, right? So I'm
We
going to make
don't.
sure to no matter what I have to do to make sure that I make the most of it.
And I think it's important, talking with you and I think it's important that people do talk to somebody like you because it is easy to sit and go like I did say, am I going to do this for the rest of my life? Is this it? Is this what I'm going to do? And I had a choice to make, but I'm not a big, look, I love marriage. I was married for 30, I was with him for 33 years. I was married for 32. And so I love marriage, but it's like at some point I had to say, is this what I'm doing for the rest of my life? Because it was too painful and too hard and it was abusive. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think it's important. I like that question to ask yourself that you were talking about saying, am I going to be doing this for the rest of my life? Is this what I want
Mm-hmm.
for my life? And sometimes the answer is I'm going to leave, or the answer is I'm going to work on what I have to make it the best so that I can do
Yeah.
this for the rest. Not in this way. We're going to change it so it's not like this, right?
Yeah, and that's a big thing what you referenced too. Like a lot of times, like even when women are like, okay, no, I really want to give this a shot. And even when you decide to change or to stay,
Yeah.
one of the things is that I work with women on doing is bringing the focus back on them and
Yeah.
focusing on their self-care and
Yeah.
focusing on more like one of the big struggles too is because we're in that relationship and we have that feedback from the other person,
Yeah.
we're always gauging what we do based on the other person's reaction. And we have to
Oh,
understand that this other person has created habits, they have traumas, and sometimes, we need to focus really on ourselves and what we're doing and really detach from what the man is doing so that
yeah.
we can do the work and rediscover who we are and not be so
Yes.
focused. And I mean that in a loving way still
Right.
too, like not just
Yes.
ignore and disrespect, but
Right.
if you're learning effective communication skills and he still reacts defensively, well, do you know what? I don't care as your coach that he reacted that way if you communicate it effectively,
Yes.
right? And sometimes you might have to communicate effectively, 2, 3 times because he's still
Yes.
in that habit and he might just realize it after, like, oh wait,
Oh, wait.
she was being nice and I
Right.
reacted a little bit.
Yeah, it
And it
could
might
be
take the next time or the
reactive.
third.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Oh my gosh, that's so true. And I love that idea of because oh my gosh, I think about that. And it's even with anything, right? Even when we set boundaries or anything,
yeah,
we wait for the other person to react to see if it worked. And it's like,
yes.
oh my God. It's like, wait, oh my gosh, that was such a good perspective. I love that. Thank you. Brand new information. I love that. Well, because I am so guilty of that. It's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do this thing. And then if they react poorly, I guess it didn't work.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, it's not
Not
about
necessarily,
that.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
Especially
gosh.
with boundaries. Boundaries are for yourself.
Yes,
We have
exactly.
often fallen in the trap of thinking, okay, a boundary only works if the other person does it, like you said, or reacts
Yeah.
appropriately. But no, boundaries are for you to express what you need and what are you going to do if something doesn't
Yes.
happen or whatnot.
Yes.
So,
I actually just did a reel on boundaries right before this
ooh,
because I saw a really good quote about it and it was such a good explanation to remind people that it's not me saying, "Hey, you have to do this." And because I hear
yeah,
people say my boundary didn't work and I think, "Oh, wait, you did it wrong."
yeah.
Because
It was a threat or it was an ultimatum. It wasn't a
right.
boundary.
Right, it was so it wasn't a boundary.
Yeah,
You can't say stop doing that to the other person. You can say if you don't stop doing that, I will be leaving
yeah.
the dinner or whatever. If you're calling me names or asking about my weight at Thanksgiving dinner or whatever,
Yes.
those kinds of things. But that was an interesting concept for me to learn as well. When I
Mhm.
first started doing boundaries, because as a recovering people pleaser, I was like, what? Oh gosh, I have to, now it's like,
Yeah,
now I know it's about me and what I'm willing to tolerate, and what I will do, my choice, what I will
yeah,
do if my boundary is crossed, I will, whatever it is that I'm going to do. So, yeah,
yeah.
it's good to have that discussion and not look to the person. And I think you're
Hmm.
right well, I know you're right. I know you're right that, well, especially when we've been doing it the same way over and over, right? And then you're teaching people how to communicate differently. And it may
Yeah,
be good, but the other person isn't ready to, they're still
yeah.
going like, They're still react however they react, maybe the way they
Hmm.
usually did. So, but we have to keep
Yeah.
going. Don't be scared.
Yeah.
Keep going.
And I guess that's a benefit, like when you do get your partner to go to couples therapy, you guys are
Yeah.
both doing the work at the same time. So there
Yes.
isn't so much of a
Right.
lag between like
Right.
both of your growth. But
Right.
that is the challenge. But
Right. That doesn't always happen.
yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, there's good stuff that can happen even on your own. I know for me it was a
Yeah.
big benefit. I know for me that I spent a lot of time I always say I got sick of myself and was wondering,
Hmm.
how do people walk around this world happy? I don't get it. Like,
Yeah.
how do you just walk around happy? Like, what does that look? And so I started researching that and doing therapy. And did you know you're just allowed to be happy? Did you know that? And you just have joy in your life.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's encouraged.
Yes, it is. But I just remember going, how is that person just happy? Like, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
that's it. That was a big deal for me. Of course, we don't need to get into then I therapied my way out of my marriage because it was a different situation. It was narcissistic
Yeah.
and abusive and all that. But for me, then I was able to make decisions for my life because I was working
Mm.
on my self-worth and I was like, I
Yeah.
have joy, in my life. And I don't have to wait for my partner to do something for me
Yeah.
before I have joy. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard. It's hard sometimes especially people who are people pleasers, but that's
Oh
okay.
yeah. A lot of us are.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially, yeah. I mean, I grew up with that model to me to be codependent and all that. And I think as a mom, I tend to lean that way anyway,
Yeah.
and thankfully my kids are grown and they'll call me out on it. they they're like, "We can do it. We got it. We're
Yeah.
adults. We can
Yeah,
take care of it.
exactly.
Take care of the situation." Well, so tell me, we've kind of talked about it. Tell me a little bit of where you're at now with your life and whatnot.
So now I'm very happily married
Awesome. Yay.
to this man. We went through that, that low point, but it
Yeah,
was all part of the journey, right? So
right.
I wouldn't have it any other way other than I wish I had kind of the skills or the tools to
Right.
shorten that period of time. And it's funny
Yes.
because a lot of times I share with my clients, like, I'm still doing all this work I teach, like to this day.
Yes.
And the beautiful thing, and just going back to this whole idea of not
Yeah.
having to heal perfectly, and it's the same thing with the
Yes.
skills too, and kind of the work I do with women, like the more you do it,
Yeah.
the more you get flexibility and grace. Like even the other day, like
Yeah.
I didn't communicate effectively to my partner, but because we're back in a good space and I can catch myself,
Okay.
it
Yeah.
doesn't matter so much anymore, right? You can get through these things. I always say 9 out of 10. All the skills I teach you, aim for 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be perfect. But just to say, I still work on my emotions every single day. I still work on my codependency because that was me also.
Yeah.
I still work on my communication skills, negotiating, um, and just, yeah, understanding, just keeping the perspective from what men truly desire also in a
Yeah.
relationship, and all those things that I teach. And I think just it continues to make my vision for the work I do just even bigger,
Yes.
in terms of helping more women. So
That's really good, because we do have to practice it, right? We have to
yes.
practice what you
Yeah.
preach. Well, because you're right. We're not going to be 100%. We're not, but you get into these new habits, right? You're teaching new
Yeah.
habits for people, right? Because if we can learn
Hmm.
how to be in bad habits and it's not being effective in our relationship, we can learn new habits. And so then I could
Yeah.
see where it would become these new habits so that you can recover faster, right? And that's
Hmm.
something that I was just doing therapy and different things like that, and I say to people, oh yeah, this happened, whatever situation it is, this happened to me, but I didn't stay there very long. I didn't stay down. I didn't have to go to bed all day and cry about it. I was able to recover faster because I have tools. I can journal about it or do tapping or whatever, and then just
Yeah.
recover faster. So that's the nice thing about having some tools for your toolbox, right? Is
Exactly.
having some new habits and recovering faster
Oh
and
yeah,
just
because I was telling a client the other day, because she's hard on herself because she does
mm,
let herself go up and down a little bit
Oh,
either too much or for too long stretches of time. And she's like,
yeah.
oh, I wish I could just be, balanced all the time or
Oh,
happy all the time. And I was hearing the story about how my husband and I, we go mountain biking with
yeah.
this one of the people in the group we go mountain biking with. He's always happy, like
Oh,
always a little too happy. And people kind of think it's weird a little bit, right? Like
oh, okay.
it's
Yeah.
okay to have like
Yeah.
I'm saying that lovingly there, obviously, but just to say
Right.
like, kind of normal to have emotions, but like you said, right, it's
Yeah.
it's being able to get out of it. It's being able to either recover faster or even just not to let it, stop you from doing the things that you
Yeah.
love to
Like
do or going
completely
after your
derail
goals.
you, like
Yeah.
completely derail you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing about that. It's I have a really good group of friends where we can talk really deeply and say like, "Oh, I had a really hard time with this." And those of, we can encourage each other and say like, "But you seem okay." It's like, "Oh yeah." And I was able to just get right back up. I do allow myself that time to grieve. If something comes
Yeah.
to my mind about my past relationship, I'm going to cry about it, grieve. Maybe I'll journal,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I won't. Maybe it's just worth crying about it for a minute and moving on and thinking,
Mm-hmm.
okay, why did that affect me? And that's really all I do. But that took a lot of work, right? It takes a lot of work
Mm-hmm.
because I have a mission to get better, to heal whatever's been damaged and hurt, and then so that way I can move on and not take my patterns with me to the next
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I sure don't want to do that. And so tell me a little bit more about what you're doing. Let me see, because you were saying your mission just gets bigger and your desire to help other women. Tell me a little bit about your mission to just what do you want to do? Are you doing more than this? Are you speaking or anything like that? Doing any speaking?
I just have my YouTube channel. So I do my
Okay,
YouTube
awesome.
channel and then
Yes.
I work with women, and those are um the two primary ways I work with women, or I do my mission so far. But it's funny because part of my mission, and I put this like in my contracts with women,
Okay.
is to be invited to their vow renewal or their wedding based
Oh.
off the work we did. So kind of like my mission is to collect the most wedding invites and vow renewal. I need to
Oh
set a
my.
number. Actually, I haven't set a number for that. And I tell
Okay.
women it's not that I actually need to go. I understand
Yeah.
weddings and are expensive, or you might want
Right.
to keep it intimate, but it's just the whole idea of having the invitation.
Oh my gosh, I love that. You're like, it's a success little check mark, right?
There you go. Yes, that is, the
That's
thank you of us
exciting.
working together. And
Yes,
that's
that's
all I ask of
exciting.
you. I want you to have your
That's
happily
all
ever
I
after.
ask.
All I ask for is a wedding invite.
That is so well, yes, and I love that. That's really fun. Okay, so speaking of your YouTube channel, so tell us where people can find you just in general, all your things, and we'll also put it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Mireille Nicole Coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually fixed that because of you. I
Okay,
used to have a
good.
different IG handle.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
I'm so proud of you.
But I'm still Mireille. I'm still just Mireille Nicole on
Okay.
Facebook. I use my
Yeah.
personal profile, but you can find me there, friend me, follow me, subscribe to me. I'd love to connect with all of you and chat.
Okay, great. And we'll put all that information in the show notes. So thank you so much for being here and sharing all this great information on how you're saving relationships left and right. Because
Thank you so much for having me here.
yeah, I appreciate it. And if anything resonated with you guys, be sure to connect with her and also, leave us a comment, leave us a review on Apple
Yeah.
Podcasts and all those things. Of course, we'll put everything in the show notes. So I just really appreciate it. And I want to thank you for being here.
Thanks again. So fun to be with you.
All right. So we'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.